She's secretly loved me for a full 15 years, yet always pretended to hate me, the eldest daughter of the Xia family. Suddenly, an arrangement was made by old Master Xia, for her to enter into a political marriage with me. Xia Xining calmly said, if we're marrying, then so be it. It's the same no matter who it is. It's better than marrying some random nobody later. It's best to get the marriage license tomorrow, so the child can be born by next year. I thought Xia Xining would resist a bit, but surprisingly, she was so obedient to old Master Xia's arrangement. Something felt a bit off. Since when was the young lady so obedient? The next morning, Xia Xining walked downstairs, wearing a long white dress. Her jet black hair was tied up high. She wore no makeup, but her face was still charming and striking, with a casual and relaxed look. Auntie, a glass of hot milk, please. After she said that, she spotted the man on the sofa. Her pace faltered. After 10 seconds, her brow twitched slightly, struggling to suppress the urge to turn around and go upstairs. Xia Xining, my deep, magnetic voice suddenly rang out. Hearing the long-awaited voice, Xia Xining's body stiffened slightly. Finally, she simply sat down on the sofa, her eyes downcast, her voice flat, yet with a hint of mockery. To think forced marriage tropes still exist these days. I tightened my grip on my lap, then looked up and took the initiative. I know you don't want this marriage, but you will have to marry eventually. Rather than marrying someone else, it's better to marry me. Our families know each other well, and I have no bad habits. You'll still be free after marriage. I won't interfere in any of your business. What I mean is, even if we're married, you can still live your own life. Xia Xining stared at the vase on the coffee table, seemingly lost in thought. Several minutes passed. She seemed to find some logic in what I said. Bring your household register. See you at the door in 10 minutes. Don't waste my time. With that, she stood up and walked upstairs. I was stunned for a moment, then reacted quickly. I had brought the household register with me. In 10 minutes, Xia Xining came down in her white dress, the sapphire necklace on her neck particularly eye-catching. She saw the man still sitting on the sofa. She paused. Unwilling. I immediately shook my head, stood up, and replied, I am willing. The Gu family was in trouble. This marriage was definitely a loss for the Xia family. I had nothing to demand. Instead, I felt somewhat grateful. Xia Xining lowered her head, and her movement of fiddling with her watch suddenly stopped. Her ears and cheeks flushed slightly. It took less than half an hour from home to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Xia Xining didn't even glance at the marriage certificate, tossing it into her bag, as if it were just a piece of scrap paper. She straightened her skirt and said flatly, I'll send you the address later. You can contact my secretary regarding the move. Then, she suddenly reached out for my phone. I hesitated for a moment, then took the phone out of my pocket and handed it to her. Xia Xining tapped the screen. It required a password. Her finger paused. Password? I instinctively replied, 425369. Xia Xining gave me a quick glance, then entered a string of numbers. Call me anytime if something comes up. Don't let the old master think I'm treating you poorly. Otherwise, my life will be difficult. Thank you. I looked at Xia Xining and continued, I get off work at 6 o'clock, and go to bed at 11 o'clock. If it's past 11 o'clock, you don't have to come back. I won't tell anyone. Or if you don't want to live together, you can move out. I'll cover for you. I guessed she wouldn't want to live with me. I brought it up to save her the embarrassment. Xia Xining turned to look at me, her gaze sharp as she asked, Do you mean that I can fool around outside as I please? Hearing the words, fool around, I hesitated for a second, then nodded. As long as you don't get caught by the police. After a pause, I added, but I won't be bailing you out. I can accept you fooling around, but I won't tolerate you making me lose face. Xia Xining raised her eyelids, her tone becoming lazy. She said slowly, I'll try my best not to get caught. Having said that, she stepped into the luxury car by the roadside with her long legs. The car door closed with a thud. Just as I was about to leave, the window rolled down, revealing her perfect profile. The corner of her mouth curled up casually. Wanting me to bear the old master's anger for you? You've certainly got it all figured out. Don't worry, I'll be home on time today, tomorrow, and the day after. Mr. Gu, you'd better be home on time too. The black luxury car sped down the road. Inside the car, Xia Xining took out the marriage certificate and opened it. Seeing the man's expressionless photo, She gently stroked the man's face, carefully, as if touching a treasure. Gu Shiyin, Mr. Gu. Her bright red lips curved into a slight smile. Not until the car stopped in front of the office building did she put away the marriage certificate. Inside the Xia group, Xia Xining handed a key to Secretary Lin. She instructed, contact the cleaners to tidy up. Daily necessities need to be ready by this afternoon. The bed in the guest bedroom hasn't been used for too long, just throw it away. Seeing Secretary Lin standing still, she raised an eyebrow. Are you planning to quit? Secretary Lin waved his hands in denial, took the key, and whispered, President Xia, I heard you recently got married. Surely you're not joking with a fake marriage certificate. President Xia was in a decent mood. As she sat back in her soft leather chair, Secretary Lin ducked his head and quickly congratulated her. Xia Xining remained expressionless, replying flatly, I'll reward you with 3 months' salary. Thank you, President Xia. Secretary Lin's eyes immediately lit up, and he scurried off to get to work. Waiting for the secretary's figure to disappear, Xia Xining took out a small red booklet from her bag and flipped through it. Her eyes were fixed on the photo of herself and the man. After a long silence, she pulled out her phone and scrolled to the very bottom of her contacts. She clicked on that person and sent a location. She stared intently at the screen for a long time, but there was no response. It wasn't until late morning that I discovered a rather clumsy fellow had sent me a location. My mind raced, but I couldn't remember who this person was. I almost closed the chat box, before it suddenly clicked. Wasn't this Xia Xining? I simply replied with a, fine. I immediately called to give instructions, asking Auntie Wang to pack up all my things. I would move over there after work. Around 6 o'clock in the evening, I arrived at the address Xia Xining had sent. The housekeeper, Auntie Wang, had just opened the door. She said warmly, Mr. Gu, you're here. I nodded. As soon as I stepped into the living room, I immediately noticed that woman sitting upright on the sofa playing with her phone. I couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. She just gave me a cold glance, then lowered her head to focus on her phone again, as if my presence was of no consequence. I knew the reality of living under someone else's roof, so I asked proactively, which room will I be staying in? Xia Xining turned her head to look at me, then quickly withdrew her gaze as if nothing had happened. The room on the left upstairs is yours. As she spoke, her hand trembled slightly. She shifted her body to hide it, pretending to be casual. I followed Auntie Wang upstairs, and found Xia Xining's belongings already in the room. Only then did I realize we were going to be staying together. I thought Xia Xining wouldn't be willing to share a room with me. Watching the man turn back around, Xia Xining put down her phone. She elegantly crossed her long legs. Before she could speak, I asked her directly, though it might be a bit impolite to ask. I still want to confirm. You don't have any infectious diseases, do you? Xia Xining's brow twitched slightly. She leaned lazily against the sofa, resting her hands casually. Isn't it a bit late to ask that now? She said. What's the matter? Afraid I have some ulterior motives toward you? Don't worry, I'm not interested in you like that. To fool the old man, we have to play the part fully. I had experienced her sharp tongue since high school, so I wasn't surprised to hear this now. Before I could say anything, the woman lazily added, I'll send the medical report to your phone. I tried to ease the tense atmosphere, since both families would be eating together later. I'll send my medical report to you later as well. As my figure disappeared at the top of the stairs, Xia Xining finally straightened her posture. She gently rubbed her burning earlobes. Before long, she slowly walked upstairs, and leisurely entered the bedroom. She ignored me while I was packing my luggage, and sat directly on the small sofa nearby to read documents. I was busy stuffing clothes into the closet. I didn't have many things, so I finished packing quickly. I didn't notice Xia Xining at first, until I turned and saw her holding the documents upside down. I reminded her, Xia Xining, your documents are upside down. Xia Xining continued to stare intently at the documents. With her long legs crossed, she spoke calmly. I'm used to reading documents upside down. I remembered that in high school, she had this strange habit of reading things upside down, so I didn't say anything more. I grabbed some clothes and prepared to take a shower. Just as I was about to step into the bathroom, Xia Xining suddenly called out to stop me. In the future, don't always call me Xia Xining, Xia Xining. It's like you're chanting sutras. It sounds terrible. I'm still young. I'm not planning to become a nun. I thought for a moment, respecting her wishes. Then what should I call you? Call me whatever you want. Just don't use my full name. Xia Xining shrugged, acting as if she didn't care. I thought for a long time but couldn't think of a suitable name, so I just gave up. Listening to the sound of running water, Xia Xining flipped the documents the right way up. Finally, she tossed them on the table as if venting, glanced toward the bathroom, stood up abruptly, and walked out of the bedroom. That evening, the two families had agreed to have dinner at the Xia home. As we neared the Xia family's door, Xia Xining, who had been walking ahead, suddenly stopped. When I caught up, she suddenly reached out her hand to me. Seeing me staring at her blankly without speaking, she said coldly, "Cooperate with me for a bit." Hearing her say that, I immediately understood what she meant. I reached out and gently held her hand. I could clearly feel Xia Xining's body stiffen for a moment, though she soon relaxed. Xia Xining glanced at my hand, and said nonchalantly, "You don't even know how to hold hands. I guess you've never had a girlfriend." I indeed have no dating experience, but as a 25-year-old adult, I still know how to hold hands. I let go of her hand, and the next second, I tucked her arm into mine. I asked softly, "Is this okay?" The Xia family helped the Gu family a lot this time. I would certainly do my best to cooperate with Xia Xining. The expression on Xia Xining's face froze instantly. If one looked closely, they could see the tips of her ears turn red. She didn't dare look at our linked arms. Her chest rose and fell slightly. Then she gently exhaled. Seeing her remain silent, I instinctively moved to let go. My fingertips accidentally brushed against her palm, but she gripped me tightly the next second. Xia Xining's soft voice came, "This is fine." After the elders of both families settled the details, on the way back, Xia Xining received a call. "Xining, coming out to play tonight?" I glanced at her, and considerately pointed toward home, then walked away without waiting for her response. Xia Xining held the phone in one hand, watching my figure as I walked further away. She then said softly, "I'm already married." There was a clear silence from the other end of the line. Lowering his voice, he whispered, "Are they really that strict?" "Quite fierce, actually." Xia Xining hung up the phone after she finished speaking. As I was changing my shoes, I heard a noise behind me. I turned my head to look. I saw Xia Xining walk around me and take out the slippers. Then she stood aside without moving. She folded her arms across her chest. Her posture was as lazy as could be. "Mr. Gu, remember to wait for me when we're out in the future. To avoid letting others think our relationship isn't harmonious." Just as I was about to say something, she had already turned and left, leaving only a graceful silhouette behind. Half an hour later, I finished washing up and lay in bed. Xia Xining hadn't returned to the bedroom yet. I forgot to close the door and felt strangely relieved. I still hadn't adapted to the sudden status of being married. Within 2 or 3 minutes, the bedroom door was pushed open. Then, the other side of the bed sank down. I opened my eyes. There was silence behind me, so I closed my eyes again. I don't know how much time had passed. In the darkness, Xia Xining finally reached her hand out from under the covers, gently pressing down on the quilt, slowly letting out a breath. I could feel my heart pounding even through the quilt. Just seeing her was enough to make my heart race, let alone lying next to her now. Actually, I couldn't fall asleep either. I hesitated for a moment, remembering something. Suddenly, I asked, "How did you do on your college entrance exams?" As for Xia Xining's exam results, I actually cared quite a bit. After all, they were the result of my step-by-step tutoring. Of course, I knew Xia Xining had been admitted to Suzhou University. My sudden words startled Xia Xining, making her stiffen all over. Gradually, she relaxed again. In the dark, her pretty face felt slightly hot, yet her tone remained cold. "How could it compare to you studying abroad?" I held it in over and over. Finally, I couldn't help but say, "Why do you always talk so sarcastically?" Xia Xining said coldly, "Because that's just how I am." The room fell into a dead silence. It was a long time before I broke the silence. "We can get a divorce in 3 years. What I meant was, if she hated me, we could just live peacefully for 3 years, then dissolve the marriage immediately after." But Xia Xining muttered, "Think my reputation isn't famous enough? Do you want to add a divorced label to it too?" I realized that people you couldn't communicate with in high school are still impossible to talk to as adults. I pulled at the quilt with both hands, then I turned my back to her. Not long after, I heard rustling nearby, followed by footsteps, and finally, the sound of the door closing. Xia Xining had gone out. I looked back. After waiting several minutes, she still hadn't returned, so I closed my eyes and went to sleep. I went downstairs around 6:30 the next morning. I saw the woman sleeping on the sofa. Just as I was about to leave, she suddenly opened her eyes. Our eyes met. The entire living room went silent. Xia Xining sat up. She raised her hand to tidy her pajamas, then reached out to brush her silky hair. Wang Ma is off today. What are we eating? I shook my head and said, I'll eat at the office. Breakfast is provided there. Xia Xining stood up and walked toward the kitchen. I'll make breakfast. Then I'll drive you to work. I was just about to say something, but she added, it's the old master's orders. Hearing it was from old master Xia, I didn't say anything more. I followed her into the kitchen and offered, is there anything I can help with? Xia Xining glanced at me. The next second, she held out her arms and said slowly, roll up my sleeves. I froze for a few seconds. I quickly reached out to roll up her pajama sleeves. After rolling them up, I looked up and saw a slight blush on her face. I didn't think Xia Xining was being shy. Instead, I thought she had caught a cold from sleeping on the sofa. Are you not feeling well? Xia Xining turned and walked to the other side. She raised her hand and ruffled her hair. Just drank too much. You can go out now. After I left, she leaned her hands on the kitchen counter. Her cheeks grew even redder. Finally, she picked up a glass and gulped down some water. After finishing, she let out a long sigh. It's just rolling up sleeves, not going to bed. You're so hopeless. Until we finished breakfast, neither of us said a word. When we were almost at the company, Xia Xining suddenly said, I'll pick you up after work. I have a dinner gathering today. I explained that there was a company dinner and no pickup was needed. I'll discuss something with old master Xia later. Xia Xining gave an and said no more. After I got out of the car, she watched me enter the office building. Only then did she whisper happily to herself. After work, at the company, a group of people sat at a table by the restaurant window. Mr. Li raised his glass and said, let's all toast to Gu Jinyan. Please look after us in the future. I was an employee temporarily transferred from abroad. To these people, I was an airdropped outsider. Song Chi originally had a chance to be promoted to manager, but was suddenly replaced by me. He was feeling quite resentful, so he raised his glass provocatively. Manager Gu is one of our own now. There's no need to say, look after each other. I hope you can take good care of me in the future. I smiled and directly declined, I'm allergic to alcohol. I will look after everyone. Feel free to ask if there's anything about work you don't understand. Song Chi's expression darkened. Obviously, he didn't expect me to respond to his flattery so directly. The hand holding his glass paused. Mr. Li tried to ease the tension. Everyone, just relax. We don't do that drinking table culture here. Suddenly, he saw a group of people and stood up quickly. President Xia is here. Everyone turned to look. I turned and saw the woman surrounded by a crowd. Xia Xining's eyes met mine. After a moment, she looked away as Mr. Li introduced the company dinner. This is Manager Gu, who just returned from abroad. The company welcomes him. Manager Gu, this is Mr. Xia from our partner company. Mr. Li was afraid I wasn't clear, so he added, President Xia of the Xia Group. I didn't want the people in the company to know my identity. After all, these people weren't very convinced of me anyway. I stood up and said politely, hello, President Xia. Xia Xining stared at me quietly for a moment without speaking. Just as I was about to sit down awkwardly, she suddenly reached out and said, hello, Manager Gu. I gave her a brief handshake. I immediately withdrew my hand and returned to my seat. Next, surrounded by a group of business people, Xia Xining walked into the innermost private room. Mr. Li carefully instructed me, this is our company's biggest partner. From now on, Manager Gu, you need to communicate more with the Xia Group. Headquarters has already said that your professional abilities are very strong. Hearing about the cooperation with the Xia Group, I felt like I was back in high school tutoring Xia Xining. But of course, I wouldn't refuse work matters. After a while, I got up to go to the restroom. As soon as I walked in, Song Chi followed closely behind. He directly provoked me, Manager Gu, aren't you ashamed of being a parachuted hire? I stopped my footsteps. I tilted my head and looked at him. I was a general manager at headquarters. What's there to be ashamed of being transferred back as a manager? If you have the strength, you can try to take it. Arguing is meaningless. I finished speaking and went into the stall. After a while, I came out and saw Song-chi still standing there. I walked past him. Just as I left the restroom, I saw Xia Xining in high heels, walking this way. Her expression was cold. Clearly, she hadn't been drinking. Thinking that Song-chi was right behind me, I still nodded politely. President Xia, I said, trying to brush past her to leave. Suddenly, my wrist was grabbed. Xia Xining's lazy voice held a hint of provocation. Am I someone you can't be seen with, Manager Gu? I froze for a moment. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Song-chi just 2 steps away. I sighed in my heart. I looked up at Xia Xining. After not getting a satisfactory answer, she let go of my hand. She leaned down and said, "Let's go home together later." Then she walked straight toward the women's restroom. Song-chi hurriedly greeted her. "Hello, President Xia." Xia Xining looked straight ahead, appearing completely indifferent. She walked past him coldly. Song-chi's expression changed instantly. He quickly caught up with me. He mocked, "So your backer is President Xia. No wonder you could be a general manager at headquarters." I didn't explain anything. Right now, Xia Xining is indeed my backer. Shortly after returning to my seat, several colleagues in the company looked at me with unfriendly eyes. I didn't bother to care. After all, work is about performance. As the dinner was ending, just as I was about to get up, I heard Mr. Lee call out, "President Xia," again. I looked up and saw Xia Xining standing alone at the door. She was carrying a white bag in one hand, looking over at me. "Are you done eating?" I nodded and left. "Mr. Lee, I'll be leaving first." This time, I couldn't care less about their thoughts or looks. After all, Xia Xining is harder to please than them. Xia Xining suddenly reached out and held my hand. I was stunned. She said to everyone, "This is my husband. He was shy just now. Please take care of my husband in the future. Don't let him be mistreated." Her words were too impactful. Mr. Lee stared at us blankly. Everyone else was also dumbstruck. They didn't expect that I would actually be working at this company. Though I didn't understand the reason for her sudden declaration, I still cooperated and walked to the garage. Xia Xining sat in the driver's seat. Seeing I hadn't entered the car yet, she shook her slightly trembling hand, then lazily gripped the steering wheel. When I sat in the passenger seat, she explained slowly, "Mr. Lee knows my grandfather." Then I understood why she said those words. "I'm sorry. It's okay if you didn't know." Xia Xining started the car. She glanced at me out of the corner of her eye. My earlobe started to feel slightly warm again. Halfway through, my phone rang. I picked up and said, "Sister Mengxue, is something the matter? I've already seen the file you sent me. I'll finish translating it at home and send it to you. No trouble." "Dinner this weekend?" Before I could finish, Xia Xining interjected, "Grandfather invited us for dinner this weekend." I glanced at her, then said to the person on the phone, "This weekend won't work. I have something at home." Hearing the word home, Xia Xining adjusted her collar, the corners of her lips curling up slightly. Suddenly she said, "Help me get some water. My throat is uncomfortable." I said to the phone, "I'm busy here. I'll call you back later." After hanging up, I took the bottle and twisted it a few times, handing it to the driver's seat. She seemed to be in a good mood. "Chinese food, or Western food?" Before I could speak, she said to herself, "I'm not full yet." I said honestly, "I'm full. I'm not a picky eater. I eat basically anything." Xia Xining, however, was pampered from childhood. If the food wasn't to her taste, she wouldn't eat a bite. In high school, her family paid for a 5-star chef to cook for the school cafeteria. Xia Xining turned the steering wheel with one hand, driving toward the busiest part of the city. "Watch me eat." I nodded, "Okay." We chose a restaurant I often go to. Xia Xining ordered a few dishes, looked at me, and asked casually, "Do you want sweet and sour pork ribs?" I hesitated for a moment, looked down at his watch, finally couldn't resist the temptation of the ribs. "One serving," Xia Xining said with a smile, lowering her head, soon looked up again, and said lazily, "Another serving of sweet and sour ribs." After he finished ordering, he caught a glimpse of me replying to messages on my phone. He leaned back in his chair, resting his hands casually, asking in a relaxed tone, "How was life abroad?" At his sudden question, I looked up subconsciously, it was okay. Xia Xining drank a glass of warm water, and said casually, "Are women abroad better than those at home? How is your ex-girlfriend? Just getting to know your life. Otherwise, I won't be able to answer when the old man asks." I felt her questions were somewhat pointed, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what was wrong. I haven't been in a relationship. Women abroad and women at home should each have their own merits. Xia Xining gave a hum, raised her hand to straighten her dress, then stood up and said, "I'm going to the restroom." She walked into the restroom. The large mirror reflected her beautiful face. Those peach blossom eyes narrowed slightly into crescents. After a while, she splashed her face with water to cool down. The dishes were served one by one. Xia Xining finally returned slowly to her seat. She didn't say anything, just lowered her head to eat. I clearly felt her expression was off. I guessed it might be something related to the company, but I didn't ask. Xia Xining's mood was indeed quite bad. From the meal until we got home, she kept a stiff face the whole time. After 10 p.m., Xia Xining walked out of the study. As soon as she entered the bedroom, she saw me sitting on the bed, holding a book in my hand, a foreign classic she was never interested in. Her gaze gradually deepened. She walked around to the side of the bed, picked up her pillow and threw it on the sofa, obviously planning to sleep on the sofa. I naturally noticed her actions. After a moment of hesitation, I stood up and said, "Why don't I sleep in the guest room?" Xia Xining didn't say a word. She sat directly on the sofa, pressing her temples with both her hands. "The bed for the guest room hasn't been bought yet. Do you think Auntie Wang is only here to cook?" However, Auntie Wang really was just there to cook. She had no other tasks. I was a bit stunned. I didn't expect Auntie Wang would actually observe them. "I'll sleep on the sofa." Xia Xining opened her eyes, stared at me and said, "The old man wants me to learn to be a good wife and mother. I wouldn't dare disobey him." I lay back down on the bed, thinking to myself, if you were really that obedient, old Master Xia wouldn't have said those things to me. So I said, "I meant, as a man, it's more appropriate for me to sleep on the sofa." Xia Xining got up and turned off the light, looking at me in the dark. Her gaze softened, but her tone remained firm. "Forget it, just to be safe." She lay on the sofa, tilted her head and peeked in my direction. After a while, she suddenly spoke up, "Gu Shiyan, will you go abroad again in the future?" Before I could react, she said indifferently again, "Forget it. I'm not particularly interested in knowing anyway." For some reason, I suddenly realized, Xia Xining is very sensitive about going abroad, but I didn't think I was the reason. After all, we didn't have much contact. I remembered my friend Chitsu's gossip. Supposedly Xia Xining had a boyfriend who went abroad. Then she became unusually irritable, drinking every day, and the men around her kept changing. Xia Xining didn't really want to ask me. I just lay there and didn't speak, pretending I was already asleep. Xia Xining's eyes on the sofa felt sore. Having received no answer, a flash of self-mockery appeared in her eyes. Then she closed her eyes, probably from tossing and turning too much. Xia Xining got a stiff neck. In the morning, I was woken by a muffled groan of pain. I opened my eyes, saw her on the sofa with her beautiful hair, all messy, sitting there in a stiff posture. Clearly something was wrong. I got up and asked, "What's wrong?" Xia Xining still had her head tilted, said gloomily, "Stiff neck. Do you know how to massage?" "I need one. My mom used to get stiff necks often. I learned some techniques from a master." Xia Xining gave a hum. Two warm hands pressed on her shoulders. Her whole body tensed up, as if a pressure point had been hit. Gradually, she felt her body heating up. Suddenly she stood up abruptly and said, "No need." After saying that, she walked out of the bedroom without looking back. The sound of the door closing was deafening, not looking like she had a stiff neck at all. Once again, I felt Xia Xining's annoyance with me. Since high school, she hated my touch. Sometimes if I stood too close, she'd just turn and walk away. As a result, everyone in the school knew. Xia Xining didn't like me. Xia Xining is really a childish person. That has always been my view. When Gu Xinran met Xia Xining at the hospital, her neck looked like it was stuck like a hedgehog. But someone's mood seemed quite good. She teased, "Sister Ning, did you sleep without a pillow last night?" Xia Xining glanced at her casually, and asked what was up. Gu Xinran sat next to her, smiled and said, "Lu Chen is back. Are you going tonight?" Xia Xining frowned. "Meng Yao is back too." Gu Xinran looked at her expression, patted the back of her hand comfortingly. Pity you for a second. Actually, Lu Chen is far inferior to Gu Shiyan. Just let it go. I know being dumped is tough, but life is full of stumbles. She cleared her throat. You didn't lose either. Meng Yao likes Gu Shiyan. Doesn't that make you feel better? After saying that, she saw Xia Xining staring at her. He immediately protected his neck, and made a new suggestion. If you take Gu Shiyan to the party today, you'll definitely win big time, but you must ensure Gu Shiyan cooperates. Otherwise, Sister Ning, you'll lose a lot of face. Xia Xining relaxed her posture slightly. She said calmly, who said I like Lu Chen? He's not my type at all. She finished with a hint of disdain. Gu Xinran wore an expression that said, you really care about appearances. Forget about the rest of the group. She saw with her own eyes how she cried when drunk, constantly asking why he had to go abroad. At that time, in their group, only Lu Chen was going abroad. Fine, fine, whatever Sister Ning says. Are you going today? Xia Xining replied lazily, we'll see. At noon, Gu Shiyan received a call from Chi Chu. Just as he left the office, he saw the trendy-looking Chi Chu at the door. He waved at Gu Shiyan. I walked over with a smile and shook his hand. Weren't you traveling? Why are you back? I'm in no mood for traveling. Chi Chu sized me up, and said, eating well abroad, huh? You're almost getting fat. Then I took him to a private meeting room. Did you and Gu Xinran break up again? Chi Chu curled his lip and said dismissively, this time it's for real. We're never getting back together. He had said this countless times already. I naturally didn't believe him. They were a typical bickering couple. They break up whenever they fight, and stick together once they make up. I was more inclined to believe they'd eventually marry. After all, both were spoiled since childhood. Their family backgrounds were equal. Neither was willing to give in easily, but seeing how they bickered all along, it seemed they had found a suitable way to interact. Chi Chu asked again, how's your family's situation? I heard the loan wasn't approved. Is someone intentionally targeting your family? Although I wasn't working at the company, I had looked into this immediately. No, it's just a temporary change in policy. Chi Chu let out a sigh, and shook his head. So you and Xia Xining are just making do? Has she been giving you a hard time? No, she listens to Grandpa Xia. She's quite respectful to me. Chi Chu was amused by my description. He remarked, perfect timing, there's a dinner party tonight. Come with me. Don't know who started the rumor, saying you've become fat and ugly. Gu Xinran even specifically asked me, if you had changed a lot. Although I was part of this circle, I rarely attended parties. I didn't like environments that were too noisy, but since I hadn't seen Chi Chu for a long time, I hesitated and then agreed. All right, I'll leave work early today. After Chi Chu left, I thought about it, and sent Xia Xining a message. Not coming home for dinner today. Xia Xining's reply was brief, MHM. At 5 o'clock, in the hotel's private room, Gu Xinran sat on the sofa, chatting with Meng Yu beside her. Meng Yu suddenly looked toward the door. Gu Xinran also instinctively looked over. She looked up and saw Chi Chu's face. She took a deep breath, and immediately explained, I didn't have my phone that day. That's why I missed your call. Chi Chu glanced at her, but said nothing. Gu Xinran sat beside Chi Chu, reached out to hold his arm, and coaxed him softly, I was wrong. Don't be mad. I bought that watch you liked last time. Chi Chu hesitated for a moment, snorted, and then finally relented. Clever of you. Having calmed Chi Chu down, Xinran then looked at me. I hadn't dressed up intentionally. I just sat quietly on the sofa. She didn't say anything, just took out her phone and sent Xia Xining a message. After a while, the stars of today's gathering finally arrived. Meng Yao and Lu Chen were standing, together. Chi Chu leaned in close to my ear. He whispered, no wonder Xia Xining likes this refined type. I took another look at Lu Chen. I couldn't say how handsome he was, but his aura was gentle and comfortable. I nodded. Good taste. Chi Chu glanced at me, and teased, quite generous, aren't you, Mr. Gu? I smiled faintly, and said softly, thanks for the compliment. Then, Meng Yao walked toward me. She smiled and called out, Gu Shiyan. I politely replied, Sister Meng Yao. Meng Yao, wearing black-rimmed glasses, sat beside me. Why didn't you say you were coming back? I said plainly, family matters. Meng Yao seemed to have more to say, but sensing the atmosphere wasn't right, she didn't ask further. Beside us, Gu Xinran secretly took a photo, and sent it to Xia Xining. Sister Ning, you've really won big time. Not long after the message was sent, Xia Xining walked in, her high heels clicking. Her appearance made the entire room go silent for a moment. After all, everyone present knew about her and Lu Chen. Their gazes shifted back and forth between the two. However, she walked straight toward me. Looking down at Meng Yao, she said calmly, "Please move." Meng Yao was slightly stunned. After reacting, she didn't budge. She said indifferently, "There are seats over there." Gu Xinran was afraid they would clash. After all, they used to frequently go head to head over even the smallest things. She hurriedly said, "Sister Ning, come over here. I'll give you my seat." But Xia Xining remained where she was. Her lazy posture exuded an unquestionable authority. Everyone noticed something was off. Gu Xinran quickly stepped forward and pulled Meng Yao. "Sit over where I was." Suddenly, Xia Xining reached out her hand to me, and said casually, "Yan, there's not enough room here. Let's go sit over there." Hearing this address, I was momentarily stunned. Although I knew I was just a tool, this address was far too intimate. After coming back to my senses, I subconsciously reached out to cooperate. "Okay." Xia Xining pulled me along. Before I could even react, Xia Xining was already pulling me under everyone's gaze, toward the empty seats on the other side. Chi Su couldn't help but rub his arms, whispering speechlessly, "These two are really sickening." Gu Xinran whispered in agreement. "It's my first time seeing him like this too." Meanwhile, I felt uneasy, and pulled away slightly from Xia Xining. From the corner of my eye, I caught Xia Xining's lowered gaze. No emotion could be seen. At this moment, Xia Xining's heart was beating like a drum. She bent down, reached out for a glass of red wine, and downed it in one gulp. As the alcohol entered her system, her heartbeat gradually steadied. She set down the glass, and returned to her usual lazy demeanor. With everyone skillfully changing the subject, the atmosphere slowly warmed up. Chi Su came over and sat beside me, taking a secret glance. He whispered gossipily, "Did Xia Xining and Lu Chen have some history? I remember at every gathering, the two of them barely spoke." Worried Xia Xining might hear, I quietly leaned closer to him. To be precise, it was a secret crush. To be honest, I always thought that a favored girl like Xia Xining wouldn't have a secret crush on anyone, but the truth was, she actually did. "Do you think Lu Chen knows?" I glanced in Lu Chen's direction. He was already sitting next to Meng Yao. Just as I was about to look away, Xia Xining suddenly asked, "Does it look good, Mr. Gu?" Suddenly, Chi Su and I both looked at her. My heart tightened, and I subconsciously shrunk back. As if caught gossiping by the person herself, I quickly agreed, "It's quite good. Lu Chen does look very refined, and he speaks quite gently. Xia Xining really does have good taste. At least Lu Chen isn't like those male models in bars." I started chatting with Chi Su about other things. When I noticed Xia Xining again, there were several empty wine glasses in front of her. Eventually, Gu Xinran, for the sake of accompanying Chi Su on a date, "Brother Gu, I'll leave her to you. We're heading out first." I was snapped back to reality by the title, "Brother Gu." "Okay, you guys go ahead." After they left, I checked the time. It was almost 10 o'clock. I stood up and sat down next to Xia Xining. Hesitating for a moment, I said, "Xia Xining." Xia Xining smelled strongly of alcohol. She subconsciously tilted her head toward me. I asked, "Going home?" "It's almost 10. I have to be at the office early tomorrow. I'm still new to the business. I need more time." Xia Xining gave a soft hum. She moved her body, but just as she stood up, she stumbled back down. Clearly drunk, I had to reach out to support her. "Should I call someone to pick you up?" Xia Xining's gaze fell on my arm. After a moment of silence, she finally stood up. "No, you hold me." The two of us left the private room. With the waiter's help, we successfully got into the car. I breathed a sigh of relief, and lightly shook my arm. The next second, my arm was grabbed. I looked up and saw Xia Xining's lowered gaze. I was stunned. Then came a gentle kneading on my arm. I came to my senses, but Xia Xining continued to rub my hand. It was a long time before she looked up at me. Her red lips parted slightly. "Why can't you see me? Are you blind?" After saying that, she collapsed against me. She was clearly drunk. Even drunk, her tongue was still sharp. I felt relieved for her. Luckily it wasn't Lu Chen. Otherwise, anyone who heard that would never like her after being called blind. The scent of alcohol from Xia Xining hit me, along with that mature feminine fragrance. I froze for a few seconds. Subconsciously, I pushed her shoulder. Xia Xining. She didn't react. I called out again. Still no reaction. I could only turn my head to avoid her leaning face. I could clearly see the tip of her perky nose. At the same time, Xia Xining's long eyelashes trembled slightly. The next second, she reached out and hugged my waist. Feeling my body go stiff, she also stiffened slightly. An attachment not seen for years finally leaked out a little at this moment. She liked Gu Shiyan. She had liked him since years ago, since her first awakening of love. But I never had her in my eyes. She didn't dare admit she was any less than others. At this moment, I was incredibly nervous. I tried to push Xia Xining away, but she didn't budge. I could only hold her while remaining somewhat sober. I quickly explained, Xia Xining, I'm not Lu Chen. The car fell silent. The small hand on my waist seemed to tighten a bit. Other than that, there was no sound. Back at the villa, Wang Ma opened the door. Seeing me supporting Xia Xining as we came in, she hurried over to help. With great effort, we got her onto the sofa. I sat on the sofa to catch my breath. After a while, I said, Aunt Wang, please make her some sobering soup. Wang Ma nodded quickly. Okay. I rested for a while, then got up, grabbed a blanket from upstairs, and covered Xia Xining. Only after waiting for Wang Ma to feed her the soup, did I go upstairs to rest. Not long after I left, Xia Xining opened her eyes. Her gaze was clear and lucid. She looked down at her own palm. It was silent for a while before I started writing. He wrapped the blanket tightly around himself, looking at the scenery outside the window. The corners of his mouth curled up unconsciously. When I went downstairs the next morning, Aunt Wang was setting the table. Sir, breakfast will be ready soon. Miss is cooking in the kitchen. This morning I told Miss that you were the one who helped her back. I hesitated for a moment and said, Aunt Wang, don't mention these things next time. I'm worried Xia Xining will be annoyed, or mistakenly think I asked you to say that. Regardless, I don't want to offend Xia Xining during these few years. Just like during those 3 years of high school, I just need to keep a low profile, and live a stable life. It's not that I'm afraid of her, but rather that Xia Xining does everything based on her mood. If anyone makes her unhappy, she will definitely make you lose face completely. And what I've cared about most since I was a child is my dignity. Aunt Wang was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, all right. Just then, Xia Xining, wearing loungewear, walked over carrying 2 glasses of milk. She glanced at me lazily and said, let's eat. I nodded, and sat down at the dining table. Xia Xining placed a glass of milk in front of me, then pulled out the chair next to me and sat down. She took a sip of milk, and suddenly asked casually, I was drunk yesterday. Did you do anything? To avoid future embarrassment, I denied it. No, Xia Xining just gave a flat, oh. While I was drinking my milk, she added airily, that's good. I thought I had hugged you. I took another sip of milk, lying through my teeth. No. Xia Xining hummed in response. Then, neither of us said anything else. When I was heading out, I stumbled a bit while changing my shoes. Xia Xining reached out and grabbed my hand, saying lazily, not fully awake yet. I fell back like this. Thank you. Xia Xining seemed a bit dissatisfied with my politeness. Her tone became somewhat formal. Mr. Gu, you're welcome. After saying that, she walked straight out of the villa. I was already used to her sarcastic attitude, and didn't take it to heart anymore. On the way, the two of us still didn't say a word. Just as I arrived at the company, Chi Chu called me. Did Lu Chen really offend Xia Xining? The Lu family just called my brother, saying the Xia family will no longer have business dealings with them. I was a bit puzzled. After all, Xia Xining seemed to like Lu Chen yesterday. Why would this happen? Chi Chu smiled and said, maybe Lu Chen made her lose face. After all, Miss Xia liked him, and if he looked down on her, she'd naturally be angry. I said honestly, then she really is a bit childish. Chi Chu smiled and asked, when Xia Xining was drunk yesterday, did you take advantage of her? I didn't. Chi Chu sighed, I never thought Xia Xining would see this day. She's been pampered since childhood, and now she's actually falling for a man. If Xia Xining divorces you because of Lu Chen, what will you do? I thought about it seriously, and chuckled. No matter how you look at it, I'm the one benefiting. Shi Yan, do you really not have anyone you like? Chi Chu was genuinely concerned about my love life. I smiled and said, I don't have a girl I like for now. It's not an emotional disorder. It's just that I haven't met someone I've fallen for at first sight. Any budding feelings I had back then were suppressed by my studies. Just then, there was a knock at the door. I instinctively hung up the phone. It was President Lee's secretary. Manager Gu, President Lee wants you to go to his office. I nodded, and followed him to President Lee's office. President Lee said politely, Manager Gu, there is a business negotiation for the company next week. It's an international one. I've thought about it, and you're the most suitable person. Of course, it depends on whether you have time. If not, I'll arrange for someone else. I took the documents he handed me. After glancing at them, I said, I'm free on Thursday. I happen to be going back to the head office to pick up some things that day. All right, it's settled then. President Lee hesitated, then added, Manager Gu, you know the company hasn't had much business lately. I heard that President Xia has a few international projects recently. Could you ask President Xia if she could give our company a chance? As soon as I heard this, I knew he wanted to use the back door. I've already troubled Xia Xining once. I didn't want to trouble her a second time, so I shook my head and said, business is business, and personal matters are personal. I can go to the Xia Group on behalf of the company, to see if we can secure this partnership. President Lee was immediately delighted. Great, sorry to trouble you. Manager Gu, please put some effort into it. After I prepared the materials, I immediately contacted Manager Hu from the marketing department of Xia Group. Manager Hu agreed to let me come over to talk later. After I told Manager Hu the price quote, I mentioned that our two companies have always collaborated. As for our professional standards, Manager Hu, please rest assured. Manager Hu nodded, and said, I trust your company. However, the partner for this project is quite special, and the professional requirements are more stringent. The quote given by Tianfu is even lower than yours. Furthermore, their CEO is personally involved in this project. Hearing this, I understood why he chose Tianfu over me. I continued, I have participated in many large-scale professional projects abroad. This is my work experience. Manager Who can reconsider. Regarding the price, the company has already provided the lowest possible quote. Manager Who was just about to say something, when the meeting room door was suddenly pushed open. He was about to frown, but looked up and saw Xia Xining walking in. He hurriedly said, President Xia. Xia Xining gave a soft hum of acknowledgement, glanced at me, then sat down and began to flip through the documents. Has the company been chosen yet? Manager Who hurriedly handed over the materials, and briefly introduced him to CEO Xia. This is Manager Gu from Weifang. Xia Xining looked down and flipped through the documents. She said flatly, I know. Then she looked up at Manager Hu. You may leave. Manager Hu hurriedly left the meeting room with the secretary. I suddenly felt the air grow tense. I sat up a bit straighter. In contrast, Xia Xining seemed exceptionally relaxed. Her legs were casually crossed. A few minutes passed. She put down the documents. She said casually, Manager Gu, your overseas work experience isn't detailed enough. Refine it and email it to me in a few days. I wasn't well prepared today. I nodded. All right, I'll update my work experience as soon as possible. CEO Xia, if there's nothing else, I'll head out. Xia Xining's toe swung slightly. She said nonchalantly, Mr. Gu, you really like role-playing, don't you? I knew her words carried a hint of teasing. I whispered, this is work. Work? Am I not your wife? Xia Xining continued, the old man is still in the company. Do you want him to know I don't care about you? I thought for a moment and felt she had a point. I'll contact you first next time. Xia Xining stood up, looked at me, and said, let's eat. I looked down at the time. It was almost 1 p.m., so I didn't say anything else. I followed her to her office. Xia Xining pointed to the sofa and said, sit. Wait a moment. Then she sat at her desk and continued working. I glanced at her, took out my phone to reply to Chitsu's message. The second suit is quite nice. Chitsu called immediately. I stood up and walked to a far corner. Whispered, hello. Chitsu asked me, are you still working? No, I'm waiting for lunch at Xia Xining's place. Chitsu didn't think anything was wrong. After all, although Xia Xining and I have no feelings for each other, we are married. Then you guys go ahead and eat. I'll have you give me some advice tonight. After hanging up, I sat back on the sofa. At this moment, Xia Xining's gaze gradually moved away from the computer, and rested on me on the sofa. Her gaze slowly moved to my face. Suddenly, the phone rang. It rang several times, before Xia Xining snapped out of it and answered, "MHM. Okay," then she hung up. She looked at my legs under the table, and unconsciously composed herself. Then she calmly shifted her gaze back to the computer. After a while, the secretary brought in the food. Xia Xining stood up and walked over, naturally sitting down beside me. She picked up her chopsticks and casually ate some food. As luck would have it, we had only been eating for a short while, when Xia Tianyi arrived. Seeing the two of us eating together, he immediately showed a look of relief. "You two get along well. Shi Yan, tell Xining whatever you want to buy and let her buy it for you." I nodded. "Have you eaten, Uncle Xia?" Suddenly I realized I misspoke. I hurriedly corrected myself. "Dad, do you want to eat with us?" Xia Xining's eyebrows quirked up slightly. She glanced sideways. The corner of her mouth curled into a slight smile. She picked up her glass and took a sip. "Xia Tianyi didn't disturb us while we bonded. 3 years isn't a long time. They have to hurry. If they can't develop feelings, he won't force it either. I've already eaten. Take your time." With that, he gave Xia Xining a look. Then he turned and left. Xia Xining was a picky eater. She only took a few bites before putting down her chopsticks. I didn't hold back. I only put down my chopsticks after Xia Tianyi left. Going back to the company, Xia Xining didn't say anything. She stood up and walked ahead, clearly intending to see me off. I followed behind her, inevitably drawing the curiosity of some employees. Many people stole glances along the way. Xia Xining suddenly stopped, turned to look at me, then she reached out and took my hand. "I'll pick you up after work tonight." I knew she was acting again, so I played along. "Okay." After entering the elevator, Xia Xining withdrew her hand. The elevator stopped steadily in the garage. Xia Xining walked toward a luxury black sedan. I went around to the passenger seat. She sat in the driver's seat. She glanced sideways. Seeing that I wasn't moving, she leaned slightly toward me. I was stunned for a moment, instinctively leaning back, but the seat was fixed in place. Our eyes met. Xia Xining's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Then she looked down. Her eyelashes veiled her eyes. "Buckle up." She reached over and pulled the seatbelt. After buckling it, she returned to the driver's seat, started the car. The window was opened. She rested one hand on the window. The wind blew against her slightly flushed cheeks. "I don't know how much time passed," she suddenly said. "I don't like Lu Chen. Don't jump to conclusions." I instinctively turned my head to look at her. The look on her face was no longer distracted, but had grown more serious. Recalling our interactions during those 3 years of high school, I knew Xia Xining was telling the truth now. If it's not Lu Chen, then it must be someone else. I've never been a person for gossip, but at this moment, I was suddenly curious about Xia Xining's private life. "Okay, I won't guess blindly anymore, don't worry, I'll find a reason to explain to my family. The Xia family helped my family. If Xia Xining has someone she likes, of course I'll support her, and I have no reason to blame her." Instead, I felt a bit apologetic. After all, he was forced into marriage because of the Gu family. Xia Xining suddenly said coldly and sarcastically, "Even an emperor isn't as aloof as you." I was a bit speechless. I turned my head to look out the window, recalling our high school days. Whenever I couldn't stand Xia Xining's sharp tongue, I would talk back to him, and then he would shut up. Xia Xining glanced at me and said, "What are you getting angry for, you blockhead?" It wasn't the first time I knew he was slow. All his brainpower was used up on studying. There was nothing left for anything else. He gave a thin-lipped smile, his fingers lightly tapping the steering wheel. "If you don't close the window, you'll catch a cold." In the afternoon, Lu Chen's cousin, Sun Yueli, contacted me. We had participated in a math competition together in high school. We weren't particularly close, but we were more familiar with each other than with others. Sun Yueli said somewhat apologetically, "Gu Shiyan, can you help persuade Xia Xining? Don't let personal matters affect the business cooperation. Also, can you help me ask how the Lu family offended him?" I remembered Xia Xining saying he didn't like Lu Chen. which meant the reason wasn't Lu Chen himself. I couldn't guess the specific reason either. Instinctively wanting to avoid trouble, as I'd only been back for a few days, and wasn't that close to Xia Xining, I said I couldn't help. You can go directly to his company to find him. Sun Yueli seemed to understand I was telling the truth, and didn't say anything more. Okay, then sorry to bother you. After hanging up the phone, I revealed the fact that Xia Xining didn't like Lu Chen to Chi Su. After a while, Chi Su replied, I know. We all received a warning from Xia Xining. I was curious what the warning was. Chi Su said, don't spread rumors about him, or you'll be the next Lu family. He's avoiding suspicion. It's good that Xia Xining is doing this. It saves those outsiders from looking down on you. After all, you are now the legitimate Mr. Gu of the Xia family. By the way, have you been to the Xia manor? I heard those people are not easy to deal with. You should be careful. I did know that. Among the people in the Xia manor, except for Xia Xining's family who moved out, the other two families stayed there. Xia Xining's grandfather has an eccentric temper, but dotes on him immensely. Xia Xining has been lawless since he was a child, and his grandfather is half to blame for that. I replied that Xia Xining hadn't mentioned it to Chi Su. Chi Su continued, he probably didn't take it seriously. Every time he goes back to the manor, his aunt runs to my mom to complain. That Xia Xining is like a little devil every time, giving her a massive headache. I have to say, Xia Xining is indeed suitable for dealing with wicked people. I couldn't help but laugh at that. That's quite true. After work, I remembered Xia Xining said we'd eat at the Xia house today, so I went to a nearby mall to buy some gifts. I called Xia Xining on my way to the Xia house. Xia Tianyi was playing chess at home. When he saw me arrive, he was surprised and greeted me warmly. Shiyan, you're here, come in. Why did you buy so many things? Isn't Xining with you? I politely replied that there was something at the company, so I came ahead of him. Xia Tianyi asked the maid to buy groceries and cook, then called Xia Xining. It took 3 calls before he answered. Come back within 10 minutes. Shiyan is here, Xia Xining said habitually. I'm having a meeting at your crappy company. Xia Tianyi's tone softened a bit as he urged, Shiyan is already here. Hurry back. What's so important about those meetings? Just a bunch of old fogies grumbling. Half an hour later, Xia Xining leisurely returned to the Xia house. He scanned the living room but didn't see me. He asked Xia Tianyi, where is he? I told him to wait in your bedroom. Xia Tianyi said with a thoughtful look. Xia Xining's steps paused for a moment. Then he headed upstairs. He pushed open the bedroom door and saw me looking at the class photo. His hands dropped and trembled slightly. His pace faltered for a second, but he quickly returned to normal, and walked inside. He casually took a set of loungewear from the closet, and headed to the bathroom. When he came out, I had already put the photo down, and was sitting on the sofa looking at my phone. He glanced at the photo on the wall. I didn't hear the phone during the meeting earlier. I nodded. It's okay. Xia Xining tidied his hair, and sat casually on the bed. His gaze drifted to the photo on the wall again. For some reason, it felt like his feelings were glaringly obvious. He looked at the calm man on the sofa again. Maybe he still foolishly thought that he had hung up that class photo for no particular reason. The boy in the middle of the photo is you. You've changed quite a bit. I looked at the class photo after hearing that. Compared to now, I was much thinner in high school. The person I like is in that photo, Xia Xining suddenly said. Before I could react, my gaze was drawn back to the photo. I scanned carefully from the first row to the last. My eyes weren't sharp enough to tell. Before I could speak, Xia Xining lazily added, the most eye-catching one. I looked carefully once more, but still didn't find the boy he mentioned. I pointed to a boy I thought was quite handsome. This one is very ugly, Xia Xining said with disdain. I pointed to another. How is this one eye-catching? Seeing he didn't intend to be direct, I figured I shouldn't probe further. So I withdrew my hand and said, let's go downstairs. Xia Xining hummed in response. As he passed the photo, he flicked it with his index finger. The boy in the very center. If your eyes are that bad, just donate them. Let's go eat. The meal was quite casual. Mother Xia gently asked about how the two of them have been doing lately. Xia Xining didn't respond. I said we were fine, but Xia Tianyi was still worried. Xia Xining was reminded that now that she's married, she shouldn't bring her work persona back home. A couple living a good life together is more important than anything. I could only offer a brief response. Meanwhile, the person in question was still sitting there lazily. After finishing the meal, Elder Xia called Xia Xining to the study for a talk. As soon as the door closed, Xia Tianyi spoke up. What exactly is going on between you and Lu Chen? I heard Lu Chen doesn't like you, so you've started targeting the Lu family. Xia Xining sat lazily on the sofa, looking completely indifferent. She whispered, who even likes Lu Chen? I don't even know what he looks like. I obviously have to avoid suspicion regarding the rumors. Xia Tianyi felt that made sense. His expression softened slightly. As long as you understand that in your heart, Shiyan is a good kid. If you take the time to know him, you'll definitely fall for him. Who in your circle doesn't rely on their family? But Shiyan relies on his own ability. Working at a large corporation, regardless of the salary, at least he is capable. If you really can't see his worth, I suggest you donate your eyes. As he spoke, he eventually got a bit agitated. He added, I did promise him, that if you two have no feelings after 3 years, I will agree to your divorce. Xia Xining leaned back on the sofa, her eyes narrowing slightly. Don't worry, I'm not blind. Xia Tianyi breathed a sigh of relief. Good that you're not blind. Take him back to the old manor next week. Xia Xining nodded. After talking for a while, she stood up and left. She didn't see me after going downstairs. She asked the housekeeper, where did Mr. Gu go? The housekeeper replied, Mr. Gu went back to his own home. He said he'd be back in half an hour. I had suddenly gone home. Gu's dad and mom were overjoyed. They kept asking how things were between Xia Xining and me. I said it was okay. Gu's dad breathed a sigh of relief. That's good then. Don't worry about the company matters anymore. We've already made it through the crisis. I breathed a sigh of relief. I looked at him and said, Dad, eat more lately. You've lost weight. Gu's dad smiled. Being thin in old age is no problem. Just then, Sister Yen ran in and said Xining had arrived. I was stunned. By the time I reacted, Xia Xining walked in carrying some gifts. She politely called out, Mom, Dad. Gu's dad hurried up to take the items. Oh, our daughter-in-law is here. Why did you bring gifts? Just coming over is enough. We're all family. We already have all these things at home. Xia Xining sat down beside me, saying obediently, I won't bring anything next time. I heard from Shiyan that you've already eaten. Then have some fruit. Sister Yen, go prepare some fruit. Gu's mom instructed. Gu's dad was still worried about Xia Xining. After chatting about some trivial family matters, he asked, I heard you had some disputes with the Lu family. What was that about? Whether it was true or not, he wanted to remind Xia Xining, to let her know that they would always be her support. I immediately replied, it's nothing, just a misunderstanding. Before I could finish, Xia Xining cut in, there's no problem between me and Lu Chen. I was afraid you would misunderstand, so there won't be any business cooperation. I was stunned. I probably didn't expect that Xia Xining, because of us, was unwilling to do business with the Lu family. Gu's dad nodded happily. He couldn't help but take another look at her. Xia Xining was even smarter than he had imagined. Simply clearing up the rumors was enough. One indeed has to be cautious in business. The economic climate hasn't been very optimistic these past years. Xia Xining nodded in agreement. After staying for half an hour, Xia Xining and I left. Gu's dad said appreciatively to Gu's mom, Xia Xining handles matters very appropriately. Gu's mom was finally more at ease. The Xia family is prominent. She couldn't possibly be unreasonable. Otherwise, her father wouldn't have handed the company over to her. The villa area is always very quiet. Xia Xining gradually slowed her pace. From the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of the figure beside her. She said softly, next time, remember to take me home with you. Otherwise, others will think your wife is gone. I felt a bit helpless. Xia Xining went away on a business trip over the weekend. I stayed home for a day, then went out with Chi Chu to relax for a day. On Sunday night, I packed my suitcase, preparing to go abroad for a few days. Just as I finished, the bedroom door was pushed open from outside. Xia Xining held a handbag in one hand, and a white coat in the other. Her gaze swept across the suitcase on the floor. She then set down her bag and coat. With a strong scent of alcohol, she asked, are you going on a business trip? I didn't notice anything unusual about her. I explained I was going abroad. For some reason, hearing the word abroad, the atmosphere in the bedroom gradually turned cold. It felt somewhat biting and icy. Xia Xining stepped past the suitcase and sat on the sofa. Leaning back, she rubbed her brow. Lowering her eyes, she asked, "How many days are you going for?" Seeing she wasn't in a good state, I got up and handed her a glass of warm water. Xia Xining looked at me. After a long while, she reached out her hand. She said softly, "What's so good about going abroad?" I was stunned. She probably wasn't asking me. "I am Gu Shiyan." As soon as I finished speaking, a touch of softness met my lips. A scent of red wine filled my mouth. Intense and overbearing. My whole body froze, realizing I was being forcibly kissed by Xia Xining. Then, I clearly felt Xia Xining's body trembling, but her movements didn't stop. They were erratic, like being bitten. I felt some pain but couldn't resist. I could only wait for her to stop once the alcohol wore off. After a long time, Xia Xining finally let go, and our eyes met. She lowered her gaze and whispered, "I couldn't control myself." Hearing this, I knew she was sober. Enduring the pain in my lip, I said, "Drink less next time." After saying that, I got up and walked toward the bathroom. When I came out again, Xia Xining was no longer in the bedroom. I breathed a sigh of relief and continued packing my suitcase. After packing a few clothes, I went to bed. I didn't see Xia Xining when I left the next day. I guess she wasn't home last night. I stayed abroad for 7 or 8 days straight. On the day I returned, I didn't arrive until the early hours. I had the Gu family driver pick me up. Just as I stepped out of the airport, I saw in the crowd a woman wearing a black trench coat. She stood out remarkably under the white lights. It was Xia Xining. I didn't know she was here to pick me up, so I looked away after our eyes met. I felt a bit awkward in my heart. After walking a few steps, a dark shadow suddenly loomed. Then, the suitcase in my hand was firmly gripped. I looked up and saw Xia Xining's stunningly beautiful face. I hesitated for a moment and asked softly, "Are you here for me?" She looked at me and remained silent for a while. She just said one thing, "Let's go home." Then she turned and walked away. I could only pick up my suitcase again. "I know you are Gu Shiyan." I wasn't drunk. At her inexplicable words, I didn't know how to respond for a moment, so I simply stopped talking. I followed her to the airport's underground garage. After putting away the suitcase, I opened the passenger door. She immediately started the car and left. Both of us remained silent throughout the drive. An hour later, we reached the villa. I finished washing up and went to bed. Shortly after, Xia Xining also lay down in bed. I guess because I wasn't around these past few days, she had returned to sleeping in the bed. Seeing that she wasn't sleeping on the sofa, I wouldn't make her sleep there either. I had no choice but to close my eyes with my back to her. Not long after, I suddenly heard Xia Xining's voice. "What's wrong? Do you like being thrown to the ground?" Before I understood what she meant, a small hand reached over, hugged me tightly, and pulled me in a bit. Then she let go of her hand. Then she gently released her hand. In a casual voice, Xia Xining said lightly, "If you mind, then kiss me back. Then we'll be even." In the darkness, an unusual blush appeared on the woman's face. She pulled at the quilt somewhat awkwardly. It was the first time I'd seen a settling of scores like this. I was silent for a while and whispered, "I wasn't drunk." The bedroom fell silent. After a long while, Xia Xining heard the breathing beside her become steady. Clearly, I had fallen asleep. She gently raised her hand to cover her eyes. The next day, at the CEO's office of Xia Group, when Gu Xinran arrived, Xia Xining was busy in a meeting. She didn't appear at the door until half an hour later. Gu Xinran stood up from the sofa, and asked bluntly, "Sister Xining, is there anything else?" Xia Xining sat in the black leather chair, looking like she was in a good mood. "Accompany me to that food shop on the outskirts. The queue takes 2 or 3 hours. It's too boring to go alone." "It won't be boring if the two of us go together." Gu Xinran was probably afraid she wouldn't want to go, so before Xia Xining could speak, she added, "Gu Shiyan should like that shop, even though you two don't have feelings for each other. You are married after all. Give him a surprise occasionally to touch his heart. Next time, you'll be able to come out and have fun with us. No more waiting for him to fall asleep before sneaking out." Xia Xining glanced at her indifferently. After a moment, she seemed to agree with the suggestion and said softly, "Let's go." Gu Xinran made a surprised sound. Sister Xining, your household was managed quite strictly, but it's finally changed now, she said with a hint of teasing. Xia Xining unbuttoned her coat, revealing her graceful collarbones under the camisole. She said lazily, I'm willing to. Gu Xinran hummed again, but this time she didn't say anything more. It took over an hour to reach the outskirts. When they arrived at the small shop, there were already dozens of people in line. Gu Xinran sighed. She helplessly joined the queue. If it weren't for this owner refusing to open branches, I would have had him open one near my house long ago. That would be so much more convenient. Xia Xining glanced at a passerby, holding a type of freshly baked cake. She asked casually, how does it taste? I think it's just average, but Chi Chu loves it. That's my darling. If he loves it, I'm resigned to buying it. Gu Xinran looked completely whipped. Then she nudged Xia Xining with her elbow, and asked curiously, who do you actually like? Give me some gossip. Chi Chu asks me every day who Xia Xining actually likes. She was already a bit curious, and now she wanted to know even more. The only one who went abroad that year was Lu Chen. Wait, no, there was also Gu Shiyan. Xia Xining's heart skipped a beat. Before she could say anything, Gu Xinran had already taken it upon herself to analyze. It's definitely not Gu Shiyan. Who else went abroad that year? Xia Xining spoke indifferently. Stop worrying blindly. None of your business. Gu Xinran sighed. Alright. You're the best, Sister Xining. Could it be that person doesn't like you? Is that why you're afraid to say? This sentence immediately struck a chord with Xia Xining. She crossed her arms over her chest, striking a queen-like pose. She said calmly, unless he's blind. Gu Xinran nodded. That's true. Sister Xining, you have the looks, you have the figure, and you have the family background. There shouldn't be many people who don't like you. No cutting in line ahead. Get back in line. After 8 p.m., after I finished dinner. Xia Xining still hadn't returned. Taking advantage of the gap, I exercised downstairs for a while. A dozen minutes later, my phone rang. Looking at an unknown number, I hesitated for a moment. Should I answer? Hello, this is the Zhongda District Police Station. Are you Xia Xining's family member? It was a man's professional voice on the other end. Hearing the words, police station, I paused for a second. Yes. Is it convenient for you to come over? Those words kept me silent for 10 seconds, before I finally asked what happened. After a moment of silence, he said, she hit someone. A family member needs to come sign for her. Hearing the word, fight, I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Okay, I'm coming right now. The officer hung up the phone, and looked at the two beautiful women sitting opposite him. Your family has been notified. They'll be here shortly. Gu Xinran sighed. Have your bureau chief come here personally. The officer replied, a bit dazed. Our chief isn't here. Gu Xinran felt helpless. She nudged. Xining, can't you just make a call? Why are we just sitting here? Xia Xining said calmly, waiting for family to pick me up. Gu Xinran thought for a moment, and said, Gu Shiyan, what did he ask you just now? Nothing. Gu Xinran continued to gloat. I didn't expect President Xia would actually need her husband to pick her up. I bet he won't come. Xia Xining closed her eyes and stopped talking. Over half an hour later, Gu Xinran finally saw me arrive. I was wearing a beige shirt, with neat short hair, and sharp features. She still couldn't understand how Xia Xining could say I was ugly and fat. Gu Shiyan, you're finally here. Xia Xining snapped her eyes open, her gaze landing on me. Naturally, I met her eyes and looked her over. She seemed fine. The officer asked if I was Xia Xining's family. I nodded. Yes. Where do I sign? Once you sign, you can take her away. Talk some sense into her when you get back. Why is a young lady getting into fights? It's a bad influence. Don't let it happen again. As the officer lectured earnestly, I could only nod. Okay, sorry for the trouble. After signing, I turned to Xia Xining. Can we go? Only then did Xia Xining stand up from the chair, and walk slowly toward me. When she reached me, she took a package out of her bag and handed it to me. It's still warm. I was stunned for a moment. It turned out to be pancakes from that shop in the suburbs. I thought she wanted them for herself, so I handed them back. You eat them, I've already eaten. Xia Xining said flatly. Then throw them away. Gu Xinran put her hand on Xia Xining's wrist. Gu Shiyan, Sister Ning bought these specifically for you. Hearing the word specifically, I felt suspicious. After all, the line at that shop is way too long. It was impossible for Xia Xining to waste that much time to buy these things for me, but with Gu Xinran there, I didn't say much. After Gu Xinran was picked up, I finally looked at Xia Xining. "Are you okay?" Xia Xining took out her phone, typed for a bit, and said, "I'm fine." She glanced at the pancakes in my hand. Clearly, she had heard what I asked earlier. My expression changed slightly. I wanted to explain but didn't know what to say. After all, at the time, I thought Xia Xining had been caught in a vice raid. The aroma of the pancakes wafted into my nose. I hesitated for a moment, then lowered my head and started eating. Xia Xining looked away from her phone. The speed at which I ate hadn't changed. In high school, I was the slowest eater. I would only wander back to the classroom near the end of the lunch break. The corner of her mouth twitched up before she quickly returned to normal. She asked casually, "Is it good?" My mouth was full, so I could only nod. Xia Xining suddenly gave a light chuckle. Then her smile grew wider. Finally, she looked up at the streetlights. I didn't know what she was laughing at, but her personality was always hot and cold like this. In high school, one second she'd be stone-faced, and the next, she'd be smiling. Just as I was about to look away, I couldn't help looking at her eyes under the light. My heart began to race for no reason. Xia Xining's appearance. The truth was, even I considered her a goddess. In high school, I had even idly voted for her as the school beauty. Before I could look away, at that moment, Xia Xining glanced to the side. Her high heels lightly brushed against the ground. "I haven't had a chance to eat yet. We're quite close to the office." I looked around. There's a Chinese restaurant across the street. The food is actually quite good. I think it's acceptable. Xia Xining said flatly, "I'm not picky." I gave her a surprised look, but didn't say anything. Once at the restaurant, Xia Xining ordered a few random dishes. While Xia Xining was eating, Chi Chu called. Gu Xinran said that she and Xia Xining got into a fight over a pancake, and were taken to the police station. She said you went to bail her out. Is it true? I glanced at Xia Xining, and asked in a low voice. Chi Chu couldn't stop laughing. These two women are hilarious. Fighting over a pancake. Gu Xinran said she managed to buy one, but Xia Xining almost didn't. Someone cut the line and blocked her. Xia Xining got upset and started a fight, and even after the fight, she didn't forget the pancake. Gu Xinran said that pancake was for you. Did you eat it? I looked down at the table, at the remaining half of the pancake. I ate it. Chi Chu laughed for a while longer. He just couldn't stop. He said Xia Xining made you angry, so she went all that way to buy you a pancake. I couldn't help but recall the situation from that night. I couldn't help but glance at Xia Xining. I said in a low voice, "No, maybe she was just bored." Chitsu couldn't stop laughing. "Actually, you're quite suited for an arranged marriage. If we have to wait for you to fall in love, Uncle Gu might be waiting until he's 80. I was worried before that you'd be angry because of Xia Xining. Now I'm relieved. She definitely won't be able to upset you." After hanging up, I glanced at Xia Xining. "Do you need something?" Xia Xining paused for a moment. She looked up at me, then glanced at the pancake next to me, and then lowered her head to continue eating. After a few bites, she finally spoke. "What do you think it is?" "To be honest, I don't know." Xia Xining raised an eyebrow, put down her chopsticks, and leaned back against her chair, resting her hands on the back of it. She was silent for a while. "Accompany me to a banquet tomorrow." I nodded without hesitation. After all, I would have gone even if she hadn't asked. Xia Xining looked at me. After a while, she picked up her chopsticks and took a few more bites, then put them down again. "I have no appetite." "Let's go." I looked at the freshly served dishes, speechless. 8 p.m. A luxury black car pulled up smoothly at the banquet entrance. After getting out, I leaned over and reached into the car. Before long, Xia Xining, wearing a white diamond-studded evening gown, stepped out in black high heels. Her silky black hair flowed smoothly down her back. She reached out and took my arm. The next second, her palm was tightly in my hand. Our skin touched. Xia Xining's other hand tightened instinctively. She said calmly, "Don't be nervous." I didn't actually feel nervous. I just nodded. "Sister Xining, Mr. Gu, you're here too." Meng Yu came over to greet us. Beside her was someone. who looked quite similar to her, Mengyao. Xia Xining just gave a soft Suddenly, she reached out and adjusted my tie. Mengyu teased, Sister Xining is so considerate. Let's go in, Gu Xinran and the others are already waiting. Xia Xining held my arm, gave Mengyao a cold glance, and smiled casually. Let's go in. After the two went inside, Mengyu glanced at her sister, and reminded her, Sis, you should give up on those thoughts. Don't offend the Xia family. Then she began to greet others. After Xia Xining entered the room, Gu Xinran and the others noticed her. Gu Xinran swirled the wine glass in her hand. Sister Ning really cares about appearances. They're even holding hands. This couple seems to have a good relationship. The two walked over, raised a glass to Xia Xining, and then greeted me, Hello, Mr. Gu. After I nodded politely, I saw Chitsu sitting on the other side. I turned to Xia Xining and said, I'm going to sit with Chitsu. Only after she nodded did I walk toward Chitsu. I breathed a sigh of relief after sitting down. Seeing this, Chitsu leaned in and asked, feeling uneasy. I nodded slightly. Chitsu laughed, glanced at Xia Xining, and said, Xia Xining is dressed like it's her wedding day. It's a bit flashy for this event. Usually, Xia Xining wears rather simple evening gowns, but today she's clearly put in a lot of effort. I glanced at him. Although some were dressed more extravagantly than Xia Xining, her face was the real eye-catcher. I seriously guessed she might have someone she likes. Chitsu scanned the room. His eyes stopped on Lu Cheng, who was in a white tailcoat. He rested his chin on one hand. Is it really not Lu Cheng? He asked, sounding disappointed. I followed his gaze. No, it's someone else. Chitsu looked back, but his eyes remained fixed on me. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Why don't you ask Xia Xining when she's drunk? I'm just so curious. Whose heart has captured this young lady's? It suddenly occurred to me that Xia Xining always misidentifies people when she's drunk. I flatly refused. No way. Chitsu put a hand on my shoulder. We're good brothers. Satisfy my curiosity. I've been dying to know for days. Xia Xining is the biggest gossip in our circle. Nothing interests me more than her affairs. I felt a bit helpless. Chitsu continued, You know, I won't be able to sleep if I don't figure it out. Asking Gu Xinran won't yield anything either. You just need to wait until she's drunk, and guide her to say who she likes. That's not hard for her, right? If she doesn't say, then forget it. But what if she does? I really couldn't refuse. And I was also a bit interested in the gossip about Xia Xining. I half-heartedly agreed, I'll ask if I get the chance. Xia Xining has always been the center of attention at business events. Wherever she appears, there's always a crowd gathering to exchange pleasantries. I should have been with her, but since she didn't ask me to come over, I was happy to avoid the trouble. After a while, Chitsu suddenly tapped my arm. Holding his glass, he tilted his head and said, Look, Lu Cheng. He's gone to find Xia Xining. Knowing Xia Xining is interested in him, do you think he'll still choose Mengyao? I looked up, and caught Xia Xining's gaze. The next second, she beckoned me over. Before I could say anything, Chitsu began to interpret her move. Your wife is calling you over to mark your territory. Looks like it's really not Lu Cheng. I stood up and walked over. Before I even got close, I heard Xia Xining say, If you have anything to say it to my husband. Lu Cheng glanced at me, his expression stiff. Following Xia Xining's lead, I added, Is something the matter? Lu Cheng clearly didn't want to test the waters in front of me. He forced a smile and said, It's nothing. I have things to do, so I'll leave first. Next time, gently swirl your glass. Look at me with downcast eyes, as if in deep thought. After a moment, she spoke, Mr. Gu, don't you know the basic rules? I looked at her in confusion. Then her lazy voice came through. You are my husband. Shouldn't you help me ward people off? Not just anyone can approach me. What she said made sense. Since we are married, if other men appear around her, it would certainly become a joke. I responded, All right. There won't be a next time. Next time, you glanced at me, casually setting down the glass. Go ahead. Suddenly, a middle-aged man walked over with a glass. President Xiao. This is for Mr. Gu. Hello. I instinctively reached for the glass. Suddenly, a small hand lightly patted me. A woman's voice said, Go sit over there if you're uncomfortable. I had to return to Chi Su's side. Chi Su looked at his phone and smiled. You two actually look like a good match. No wonder those men are all jealous. Fighting over Xia Xining. I thought about it. Although Xia Xining is occasionally a bit harsh to me, she is actually quite gentle. Then a voice cut in, Gu Shiyan. Long time no see. I looked up, the face was unfamiliar. It took a while to recognize him, Song Yuhai. The Song and Gu families have always had friction. Song Yuhai and I were often compared, but the Gu family suppressed the Song family. Most people praised me, so Song Yuhai didn't like me very much. I didn't mind. Chi Su leaned back on the sofa. He said sarcastically, "What act are you putting on today?" Song Yuhai said angrily, but he soon restrained himself. He smiled at me again and asked, Gu Shiyan, when is your wedding going to be held? Clearly he was looking for trouble. Everyone knows that the Gu and Xia families are allied by marriage, but there has been no news of a wedding. Obviously, the Xia family doesn't value the Gu family. I wasn't angry at all. My emotions were stable. Just as I was about to respond, Xia Xining walked over at some point. She sat down next to me. Her posture was lazy but her words were sharp. When we hold our wedding, do we need to tell you? Who do you think you are? Suddenly, the surroundings fell silent. Chi Su didn't miss the chance to whisper to me. He praised, I knew it. Xia Xining is the best at fighting evil with evil. I agreed in my heart. Song Yuhai was so embarrassed he had nowhere to hide. Yet he didn't dare say anything directly to Xia Xining. He forced a smile. I was just asking. Without looking up, Xia Xining said coldly, a wedding between the Xia and Gu families is not like some nobodies who can just hold one anytime. Those words were truly sharp. Gu Xinran stood nearby with her arms crossed. If she had Xia Xining's mouth for business, she wouldn't fear someone annoying her anymore. Only she could annoy others. The disharmonious atmosphere here was naturally noticed by the Meng family. Meng Yu and Xia Xining have a good relationship. She immediately tried to ease the tension. Sister Ning, come, let's have a drink together. Seeing no response from Xia Xining, Meng Yu quickly said, Brother Gu, please persuade Sister Ning. I thought, I probably can't. But since everyone was looking at me, Brother Gu, I had to try. Softly, Xining, let it go. Xia Xining surprisingly gave a soft grunt of agreement. She gave me face. After this, everyone understood. I, Mr. Gu, have some weight in the Xia family. Actually, anyone with a brain knows. It's impossible for me to have no status in the Xia family. The Gu family has already overcome its difficulties. With the Xia family's support, the future will only be better. Besides the Xia family, who else can compete with the Gu family? Throughout the banquet, I didn't drink much. In contrast, Xia Xining smelled strongly of alcohol. The corners of her eyes were flushed with a light red. The color of that red mole was a bit deeper than usual. Once in the car, she leaned back to nap. At the villa, I turned my head slightly to look. She was leaning her head against the car door. The light from outside the window came in, reflecting her well-defined nose. Her red lips were enchanting and sexy. I hesitated for a moment. Softly, I called out, Xia Xining. But there was no response. Just as I was about to help her out, she suddenly opened her eyes. Her gaze was slightly blurred. She whispered, Are we here? I nodded and hummed in response. Xia Xining gave an hemichem. The next second, she reached out her hand to me. I immediately reacted and supported her. If I had turned my head then, I would have seen the woman's lips curling up slightly. Helping Xia Xining onto the bed in the bedroom, I took a breath. I got up to get a towel from the bathroom. Xia Xining was clearly quite drunk. The flush on her face was deeper than before. I reached out to touch her forehead. Worriedly, I called her name, Xia Xining. How are you? Against the light, her small face looked even softer. Her eyes were half closed and dazed. Just like many years ago, Xia Xining looked at me with half-opened eyes. After a long silence, she just stared at me fixedly. She was clearly no longer sober. She's drunk. Chi Su's words flashed in my mind. I glanced at Xia Xining. Doing this for the first time made me feel a bit guilty, but I braced myself and asked, Xia Xining, who do you actually like? Xia Xining stared at me and said nothing. The flush on her face deepened. Just when I thought she wouldn't answer, she suddenly uttered a single word. As soon as she finished speaking, she closed her eyes, and completely lost consciousness. I was beyond speechless. This habit of hers had flared up again. She loves mistaking people for others when she's drunk. Xia Xining smelled strongly of alcohol, plus she was a restless sleeper while drunk, so she could only sleep on the sofa. Not knowing how much time had passed, the woman on the bed slowly opened her eyes, staring at the pitch-black ceiling. After a long moment of silence, the heat on her earlobe finally began to fade. As she got up, by the faint moonlight from the window, she could vaguely see my face on the sofa. She gave a soft chuckle. The next second, she approached me quietly, and carefully lay down on the sofa. The two of us were very close. I suddenly caught a faint, pleasant scent. In my light sleep, my Adam's apple bobbed. Xia Xining just crouched there, watching me quietly. Once I was fast asleep, she finally leaned down and kissed my forehead lightly, and whispered in a low voice, "Blind man. She is clearly such a dazzling person, yet to me, she has been invisible for over a decade." Waking up the next morning, after a quick wash, I got ready and went downstairs, and saw Xia Xining sitting on the sofa. A laptop was open on the coffee table. She was leaning lazily against the backrest, giving orders in a low voice. "Contact Team Sue. Have the materials ready. Go over there this afternoon." After speaking, she seemed to notice something. Her body paused for a moment. Then she wrapped her loungewear tightly around her, and said to the others, "We'll talk at the office." After that, she snapped the laptop shut with a click, stood up and walked toward the kitchen. Soon, she came out with 2 breakfasts. She placed them on the table. "I'm going away for 2 days. Something's up at my mom's. Go stay at home for 2 days. Or I can hire someone to look after you." I shook my head. "No need. I can cook." Xia Xining gave a soft hum of acknowledgement, and said no more. After I left, she called to have the fridge restocked with ingredients. The morning was bright and sunny, but the afternoon suddenly turned cloudy. The temperature plummeted. I sneezed several times in the office. Then I noticed my forehead felt hot, so I took leave and went to the hospital. The doctor said it was a fever. It wasn't anything serious. I took the medicine and went home to rest. In my dazed state, the phone suddenly rang. The caller seemed very patient. I didn't answer the first time, so they called again. Only then did I sit up and pick up the phone. Xia Xining's name was on the screen. "Is something wrong?" My voice had an unusual nasal tone. Xia Xining had just finished her work and returned to the hotel. She paused while taking off her coat. "Are you sick?" I gave a soft, hum. "Caught a cold." "Did you take medicine?" Xia Xining asked calmly. I gave a reply. Xia Xining said nothing else. After hanging up, she walked straight out of the room. Secretary Lin happened to come in with materials. "Book me the earliest flight back. The sooner the better." Xia Xining's tone was calm but authoritative. After speaking, she left without looking back. Secretary Lin was stunned, but reacted very quickly, immediately jogging to keep up, searching for information on the phone while running, quickly finding the fastest route. Generally, it would take 40 minutes to arrive, just in time to make it. "I've already bought the medicine. President Xia, I'll postpone tomorrow's meeting." Xia Xining bent down and got into the car. It was past 11, and I still couldn't sleep. My head felt heavy and uncomfortable. I thought about taking another pill, so I got up to go downstairs for the medicine. Just as I reached the top of the stairs, I heard the door open, then the sound of high heels scraping against the floor. The footsteps grew more and more hurried. The sound stopped abruptly. Xia Xining stood under the light, panting. She looked a bit disheveled. Our eyes met. She walked upstairs, and quickly came up to me. Noticing the abnormal flush on my face, she reached out and felt my forehead. Her brows furrowed. "Why is it so hot?" My head was already spinning. I couldn't even think straight. I could only say weakly, "I'm going down for medicine." Xia Xining gave a tired response. Then she whispered, "I'll get it." After saying that, she pulled me back to bed, and covered me with the quilt. She felt my forehead again. After half a minute, she turned to go downstairs and brought up the medical kit. After applying a fever patch, she immediately contacted the family doctor. By the time the doctor arrived, I had already fallen into a dazed sleep. After taking my temperature, the doctor confirmed it was slightly high, but not dangerously so. "Just take some medicine and you should wake up fine." Xia Xining gave a soft hum. After the doctor left, she sat by the bed looking at me and rubbed my brow. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Xia Xining had fallen asleep against the headboard. Her messy hair and last night's clothes made her look quite exhausted. Just as I was about to get up, Xia Xining suddenly woke up, almost instinctively reaching out to feel my forehead. After confirming my temperature was back to normal, she asked in a tired voice, "Do you want some water?" I replied, "I'm going to the bathroom." Xia Xining didn't seem to hear. She reached out and grabbed my hand. He whispered, "I'm just going on a business trip. It's not that I'm gone forever. Contact me immediately if anything happens." I felt the warmth as he grabbed my hand. I couldn't help but feel a bit uneasy and looked away. "Thank you." Xia Xining looked up at me lazily. "Forget it. Don't bother with him. He has no brains." He withdrew his hand, stood up, and left. When I went downstairs, I saw Xia Xining had already changed into a set of loungewear. She walked toward me and whispered, "Lie down for a bit longer. Eat once I've finished cooking. I have some important work today." I felt my body had recovered a bit. I replied, "I'm going to work in a while." Just as I finished speaking, a small hand rested gently on my forehead. It stayed there for a while before being withdrawn. She said lazily, "Take the day off. Go to work tomorrow instead." I explained that today's work was quite important. Xia Xining didn't say anything more. She just gave a soft, hum. As she turned, she suddenly added, "Why didn't you take me along?" I was a bit stunned. Just as I was about to ask what she meant, Xia Xining continued, "We're going back to the old family home the day after tomorrow. If you're sick, the old man will worry." I whispered, "It'll be fine as long as I take my medicine on time." She just smiled. "You're fine, but I have a problem." After saying that, her figure gradually disappeared around the corner. Her footsteps grew fainter, until they faded away completely. I couldn't help but think, Xia Xining's request was truly peculiar. Taking your wife to work, that's a first for me. Yet Xia Xining insisted on being brought to work. Although it was unexpected, she is a woman of her word. Unless she changes her mind, she will definitely do what she says. After going downstairs, I tried to negotiate with her. "I'll come back to rest as soon as I finish my tasks. It won't delay the visit to the old house." Xia Xining didn't seem to care much. She gave a casual response. She handed me a piece of toast. "Eat this." As I took it, she continued, "Am I too embarrassing to be seen? Do I make you lose face? Does having me as your wife make it hard for you to hold your head up in public?" Her string of 3 sarcastic remarks made me feel quite uncomfortable. I could never win an argument with her in high school, and it's still the same now. Even though I tried not to respond to her provocation, she still persisted. "Can't you bring family to work?" My heart skipped a beat at the word family. A glint appeared in the corner of Xia Xining's eyes. Her expression softened a bit. She carried 2 glasses of juice to the dining room. She said nonchalantly, "At the company, I can be considered a client. I've reviewed your resume. It fits our company's requirements quite well. We can talk about the cooperation today, all right?" Hearing it was about work, I hesitated for a few seconds. Xia Xining hadn't replied to my emails in the last few days. I thought there was no hope for the collaboration. I said, "Work is work. Don't let our personal connection give me a shortcut." Xia Xining sat in the dining chair. She pushed a glass of juice to me. She said flatly, "A shortcut? At least you should say something nice." "What? Do you think you've been very pleasant to listen to lately?" It was much better than her sarcastic tone, but I wouldn't say that out loud. I couldn't let emotions get in the way of work. The receptionist at Muyi House saw me, and the woman beside me. She immediately straightened her clothes. "President Xia, Manager Gu." I nodded. After clocking in, I took Xia Xining to the office. There was a separate black sofa in the office. "Have a seat for a while. I'll print out the contract for you to review." Xia Xining nodded indifferently. She sat on the sofa and took 2 boxes of medicine from her bag. "Take the medicine first." She opened the box and handed it to me. Then her phone rang. She leaned back on the sofa and answered Secretary Li's call. "President Xia, Mr. Zhu said that for these 2 months, today is his only free time to discuss the partnership. I'll try to stall until 10 p.m. Are you done with your business?" Xia Xining's gaze swept toward the distance. I didn't seem to like the smell of the medicine much. I took a pill, and took 3 sips of water. She pursed her lips and smiled. She lowered her head and whispered, "Forget it. Come back." Secretary Li was a bit stunned. He didn't quite understand President Xia. "Isn't this project very important?" "It's not important anymore." Xia Xining gave a soft hum of agreement. She hung up the phone. By then, I had finished the medicine. I was sitting in front of the computer. After a while, someone knocked and came in with the contract. Manager Gu, the contract is printed. I stood up and took the document. I lowered my head and checked it carefully. Thanks, you can head out. I handed it to Xia Xining only after checking it. Take a look at the contract. See if there are any parts that need modification. Over 10 minutes later, Xia Xining looked up and said, no problem. Give me a pen. Hearing that, I handed her a pen. I didn't go over to sign until she finished. After signing, I habitually reached out. President Xia, pleasure working with you. Xia Xining looked at the extended hand. She took it and smiled slightly. Pleasure working with you, Manager Gu. She withdrew her hand and looked at her phone. Her fingers swiped across the screen. She seemed to have thought of something. Suddenly, she stood up and walked toward me.